So there are some words that we throw around like they're interchangeable, but they're not. And the difference matters. And yet, it's such a common practice that we don't even tend to even think about it when we're doing it. So some examples. I'm playing with this, trying to find examples of things that we use interchangeably. Let's say like weather and climate. So we talk about them like they're the same, but weather is day to day and the climate is long term. But in conversation, in order to not mix words or not to use the same repetitive word, we'll mix them up, right? We'll use them and talk about our day-to-day weather. Or the climate long-term pattern, we still refer to as weather as well. Another one is like listening and hearing. So hearing is more passive and listening is intentional. You have to intentionally listen to someone, but you can hear all of the things. You hear the birds, you hear the cars passing. But listening is an intentional step, intentional action. And so though we use them, I hear you, but am I listening to you? Question we should ask our teenagers. And then there's motion versus progress. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're moving forward. And so motion is just the action of being in motion. And in physics right now, we're talking about motion and how everything is moving. And it's interesting because there's some philosophers who believe nothing is moving. And so we debate that as well. But motion versus progress. We talk about in business that we're in motion. Our project is in motion, but are we making progress to it? Another one is wisdom and knowledge, which my small group a few weeks ago, we had one question asked. Is wisdom and knowledge the same thing? And we talked about that. We had a debate about it for over an hour, just talking about the differences and what we thought. So knowledge is knowing facts. Wisdom is in the application, applying them well, intentionally, applying them with purpose. And then another one that's common is price versus value. Price is what you pay. Value is what you get. So the value of something and the price of something may not line up. But again, in conversation, we talk about those concepts interchangeably. We do the same thing in leadership when we blur the concepts of self-awareness and emotional intelligence. They're not the same, but confusing them can cost you influence, trust, and presence. And so in this episode, I want to show you the difference between self-awareness and emotional intelligence, SA and EI, and why we need both as leaders and how the strongest leaders turn awareness into influence. Welcome to a Leader's Purpose podcast. I was about to say the full way to joy, but it's been several months now that it's been a Leader's Purpose, and I am so thankful that you're here. And if you are a leader and you're working on this little thing called self-awareness or emotional intelligence, if you want to step into your foundational leadership and you want to be the leader that you were called to be, you're in the right place, because here on this podcast, this is my goal and my mission, my movement to help you be the best leader you can be, the one that you're wired to be, and to shine your light so others have the ability to shine theirs. As a leader, it's not about knowing more or doing more. It's about leading and growing and developing ourselves and others to become their best self as well. And so all of these different terms, weather, climate, hearing, listening, motion, progress, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence, the words are close, but the difference changes everything. Self-awareness and emotional intelligence are like that too. So leaders use them like synonyms, but they're not. And there's a gap between them it's a gap between fragile leadership and sustainable leadership. There's a gap between having confidence as a leader and knowing your foundation and being able to have confidence in your decision-making and be able to push forward, and understanding that just because we know what to do doesn't mean that it is coming through. And so I wanted to talk about just a little story about when I was in the military and paint the picture for you. I was only in the military for I think it was 2 years. So I was still young 20s, just out of college, still learning the ropes. And though I had a small team, there was an outage. There was a comm outage. And if you can imagine, when you're on a military base, when you have airplanes in the air communication is actually really important. Your business communication is really important. If you couldn't email, if you couldn't make phone calls, if you couldn't get important messages to the leaders, to your team, to your people, you can tell that there's pressure there. And here I am. I have to go into, and I was a lieutenant, going in and walking into a room with a bunch of colonels and generals and letting them know that we didn't know where the outage was. We were researching it. We don't know the source. We could fix the symptoms. We got part of it online, but we didn't know if it was going to fall offline again. And I've got phone calls, and my boss is putting pressure on me to fix it. And I had to go and give them a briefing, give them here's where we are, here's what we know, here's what we don't know, here's what's affected, here's what's not affected, give them the state of the union, basically. And it wasn't a good one. It was not one that really, no one wanted to hear this, especially since we didn't even know the reason behind it. And so this is where I knew my triggers. At this point, I was still very much in my people pleasing. I did not want to disappoint people. I was still nervous about the job. I was still not only learning leadership, and I was learning my job as well. And I knew what I knew, and I had grown in my understanding, and I had some knowledge. I had some authority. But here I am going into a room of people with a lot more knowledge and a lot more authority. Now, I say knowledge because they don't have the knowledge specifically on the things that I did. And I don't have the knowledge on specifically what they do. And so we had to come up with those. We had to talk in a common language. And so self-awareness in the moment was knowing, okay, like they're going to start attacking me personally. And I know that I tend to, at that time, to retreat when that happens. But I knew that emotional intelligence in me told me that I needed to respond with a quiet strength. I needed to have the data and not react to what they were saying, but really give them I hear you, I know you're frustrated, and here's what we know, and here's what we are doing to fix it. And so that moment showed me that self-awareness wasn't enough. Knowing myself wasn't enough. It was the emotional intelligence, that was the application that changed the outcome. I needed the data. This is how I wanted to compose myself. This is what I would say. This is what I wouldn't say. I wasn't going to promise anything that I knew I couldn't deliver on. But this is the difference between knowing the triggers and being able to respond and regulate and listen and be in the moment and understand that confidence. And so knowing that and I can even tell because I walked in with confidence and with data that I knew they were going to ask, and then I had a list of things that we were working on that we didn't know, their energy lowered because I was prepared. And so that's the emotional intelligence side of it, is when you are putting it into action in a wise way, others can feel that and respond alike. And so they were still upset, but I survived. I didn't lose my job, didn't lose my head, and I was able to we even had some laughs in that conversation. And I left with, I will continue to give you updates. And so let's talk about what self-awareness and emotional intelligence actually are, so that way you can see how we need both. And so the self-awareness is actually knowing your strengths, your blind spots, and your triggers. Like, it's the foundation. Without it, you're leading blind. You're throwing spaghetti at the wall. You are not seeing yourself with strategic clarity. You don't have a foundation to build off of, and you're just winging it. The self-awareness is to understand what your strengths are. How do you show up? What knowledge do you have? What can you depend on from within? It's understanding your blind spots too. The things that you don't know what you don't know. When you understand your blind spots, it helps you bring those to light. And then just the triggers of, what are my natural tendencies? What do I tend to do in this situation? And what do I want to do? How do I want to make that shift? And so the self-awareness is the foundation of understanding yourself. That calm inner reserve, knowing that you have built this inner knowing that you're going to get through it, that you understand how you want to respond instead of react. And that as things come at you, you can take a deep breath because you have an evidence bank that you can pull from. And so our emotional intelligence is the application of the foundation. So it's applying self-awareness to regulate, communicate, empathize, and connect. Understanding that the person in front of you is also coming to you emotionally triggered. Chances are they do not know their foundation. They do not understand what's actually triggering them. And they may be more vocal about it. So the emotional intelligence is understanding that and finding ways to connect. So it matters because without it, awareness turns into self-absorption. It's when we become the ultimate guru or the ultimate, this is, and you know how I hate my truth, but this is what it becomes, is my truth, which is not, truth is truth. Whether you believe it, they believe it, it's factual, and everyone's able to see it. Everyone's able to build on it. Everyone's able to validate it. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. So the application, if you don't apply the emotional intelligence, that's the outward, that's the influence, that's the how you use your self-awareness to influence others. And so it matters because if we are so self-aware and yet we don't have emotional intelligence to know when to turn it on and off, when to say what. I could come in with my strengths and with my knowledge, but if I don't have compassion for the mission in front of me, if I don't have compassion for the workers in front of me, my team in front of me, if I don't take what they're going through into consideration, then you can be seen as arrogant, self-absorbed, high and mighty, unapproachable. And so when you are trying to embody your aligned leadership, having a balance of self-awareness, and we do have to work at this understanding, and then the application of the E&I that helps us make our leadership more aligned. It allows our hearts to come through, our compassion to come through, our mission, our vision, our values to come through, instead of assuming that people could just read our mind, that we're self-aware and self-awareness alone is not enough. That's just the foundation. That's just the step one. Self-awareness, that's not where we want to stay. Being self-aware is great, but for what purpose? What is it doing? Is it just to put up stronger boundaries and say no to more things? No, it's to help you see where your comfort zone is and then be able to push yourself out of it. It's to have that evidence of what is true, what is not true. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your blind spots, your core desire, your core motivations? Is to understand how you were wired so that way you can use that in the best way possible. You can depend on those so you can get uncomfortable and saying, okay, what is needed in this moment? So that's why the self-awareness and emotional intelligence are both needed. Self-awareness is the clarity, and emotional intelligence is the influence. Together, it's sustainable leadership presence. It's aligned leadership. People know what to expect from you. And to use this in a real world example here is if you are in a service industry, your customers don't remember the glitch. They remember how you recovered and how you made them feel. They don't know the ins and outs of what you did to fix the problem. They know how you responded to them. They know how you listened to them empathetically. They connected with them and communicated with them. Whether they're hot or not, you're able to regulate your own emotions to where they could hear you properly. They could hear what you needed them to hear. And so it's really important that we don't focus solely on self-awareness. I know people who spend so much time trying to become self-aware. I think they're missing the point here. This is not something you need to spend months and months on. Now, it is a journey that you will continue on until the day you leave this earth. But it's not something that should solely consume your day. Your initial practice, your initial getting that foundation does take a little bit of time, but you can do it pretty quickly. It's one of the reasons why with my frameworks that we step one is getting that foundation of self-awareness, and then we move forward from that. We build from that. We don't stay there so long. We just sit and, I just keep thinking of a monk meditating on, what do I think about this? That's great, but as leaders, we have to keep moving. And so that's one of the reasons why I came up with the Shine framework and why it works over 2 decades I've been developing it is because it gets to that foundation quick, and then you move through it into that emotional intelligence. And so the example is these guests don't remember, your clients don't remember really, they may remember what happened or how it affected them, but they really remember the service you provided them. And if you're able to regulate your responses, your emotions, your communication, the way you connect with them, then that is in the moment the way that emotional intelligence and self-awareness align. And so self-awareness is knowing, emotional intelligence is leading, and leaders need both. So I want to challenge you this week. Do you stop at awareness, or are you applying it through to the emotional intelligence? I want you to notice that this week is do you stop at understanding, oh, I was triggered by this, but understanding why, go deeper, and how are you applying it in this knowledge that you have? Because knowledge alone, I've talked about, it's not the wave of the future. Knowledge is not power anymore. It's what we do with it. It's how we integrate it, how we take action. It's the motion and progress together. Not motion and progress is the same thing. Because we can keep working. How many times do you feel like I've been busy all day and I haven't accomplished anything? I know that I am guilty of that at times, and that is my sign that I'm not working under alignment. I'm working out of fear. And so understanding that, the awareness of knowing it, and then the emotional intelligence to change it, to take action, to influence others based on the foundation that you have. And so that's your secret sauce. That's your unique strength, because we're all slightly different. Every one of us is unique, and we can build self-awareness, but without the emotional intelligence, it lies flat. Excuse me. So if you're ready to step into that and understand your foundation, and again, this doesn't take months to do. Sometimes it's just weeks. Give me 2 weeks and we can have a foundation for you that you can start building on, that you can start working from and using that for your decision making. I can't tell you how many decisions now I make from just knowing my foundation. It takes the emotion out of it, because it's here's my values, here's my core motivations, here's my core desires, here's what my mission statement is. This is the decision that aligns with that, even if it's hard. So if you're ready to see yourself with strategic clarity, if you're ready to step into both self-awareness and emotional intelligence, and you want to apply it with the quiet strength, the inner knowing, and the confidence that you don't have to fake it till you make it, or you don't have the imposter syndrome doesn't bubble up, let's talk. Let's book your leadership strategy call and let's talk about uncovering your blind spots. Let's map the clarity and let's see how blending self-awareness and emotional intelligence actually can change everything in your leadership. All right, friends, I am so glad you're here. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Leader's Purpose. I'm actually starting a new series. I am starting to record it. I am looking for leaders who want to talk about some of the things, I don't give it away too much. I'm still developing it, but I want to interview you. If you are a leader and you want to share your leadership story, if you want to share how, in your work, self-awareness has helped you, or if you have some questions and you want to be interviewed, and reach out to me. LinkedIn at Tami Imlay, TamiImlay, at Tami Marie Coaching on Instagram. And then of course, Tami at TamiMarieCoaching.com if you just want to send me an email. I'd love to chat with you. So I'm looking for some leaders, and some of you I'm going to contact. Some of you I'm going to reach out. I have some people in mind who I think would be really, their stories would really motivate you too, to see that this is not about becoming perfect or knowing it all. It's about being open to the journey. So anyway, more to come on that. And I can't wait to share it with you. With that, friend, choose joy until joy chooses you. And I will see you next week. If you have not left me a rate and review, please consider doing that on Spotify, on Apple. And that just helps me, it helps the algorithm, helps all of the powers that be know that this podcast is important and that it's worth listening to. So every time you do that, or if you share it with a friend, it helps others hear this as well and build their leadership. So All right, with that, choose joy till joy chooses you, and peace be with you, friend. Bye.